Hey, Ramblers, before we kick off today's episode, thank you for even taking the time to listen to the podcast. We appreciate it. If you love the podcast, toss your 2 cents in using the hashtag Let's Ramble and make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all the latest content and updates. Visit us at our new website at offsource.tech and make sure to follow us across all social platforms at Assistance HQ. Now let's ramble. And now, a moment from our sponsor. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Ramblings. I'm your host, Angelo Roberts, alongside your co-host, Ben. Hey guys, welcome to The Ramblings. You're in for another amazing episode. It's July 8th. I don't know when we're going to drop this, but we will. I'm your amazing host, Angelo Roberts.
And I'm your co-host, Benjamin Hester.
And this is The Ramblings. So today we're getting into a slightly touchy subject for most of you, for a lot of people, on why a lot of you shouldn't be having kids. Because I don't think you guys should be within the Black community. We are perpetuating a cycle of poverty by not being prepared mentally and financially to handle the responsibility of a child. And so I actually was talking about this on my live earlier today. If you guys are following the live, on Instagram and following us on Facebook and Instagram. However, Ben has a couple of I guess pre-thoughts, pre-notions and everything. I had actually an opportunity to vent. I'm not as pent up about this, but what are you thinking right now, Ben?
Right. So I think it kind of boils down to what we always talk about in terms of like whose fault things are. And just, from my perspective, like unwanted pregnancies are caused by, like lack of access to birth control, lack of access to sexual education, and, like it just generally being difficult for like young women to take control of their bodies and do what they got to do to make sure that like what they want is what happens. So to me, it's not really a matter of like people choosing to have kids they can't afford as much as like people being in a situation where like they get pregnant because of like external like things that like aren't necessarily like their fault, and then there's nowhere really to turn but to just like try to survive.
I was gonna say this later, but I'm coming flat out the gate like harsh on as you would call my Sean Connolly or whatever that man's name is, but maybe you just shouldn't be having sex. Like, has that been a thing? Now I understand it's like, oh, well, what about you? Da 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 da. I take the necessary precautions, So I think that we should go back to, or it should be, sex is for adults and not for kids.
Well, a lot of the people that you're talking about, like they are adults. Like, yeah, like some people get pregnant like in young teenage years and stuff like that.
We're talking about
and
kids.
Like that's unfortunate.
Even 24, even 24 is still a child, because you're telling me you can't afford $1.50 for a condom at 22, 20 years old, $1 for a condom.
I mean, personally, I think just from a public health perspective, it doesn't make sense to be having individual people like trying to like buy contraceptives and stuff. Like there's enough of like a public health advantage and benefit to us not having unnecessary children being born in financial situations that aren't great, to where we should just as a society decide to spend like 2 cents on contraceptives and birth control instead of the full dollar that we spend to like support children that otherwise wouldn't need to exist if we just like would offer birth control.
So oh my gosh. So here we go talking about the government. The government. It's the government's fault because they need to step in. Why are we running out of time? We have a 40-minute time limit. All right, yo, we got 10. We gonna pause and come into this. There's only 2 people on this thing. Maybe because I brought that third person. Anyway, so here we go talking about the government being blamed. Like, how can you blame the government for you opening your legs? Why are you having children and you can't afford to to be protected from the consequences, if we even were to consider that a consequence, because we're not going to call kids like a consequence. However, the act of being pregnant is a direct result of having sex.
Right. And it's just like just like in, white suburban neighborhoods where like people also have sex in the high school and as teenagers, except like the girls there just still end up going off to college and still end up doing their thing because like they had access to birth control and things of that nature and access to like STI testing and in a lot of cases like better sexual like education and things of that nature. So like you can't compare like an apples to oranges situation because some people just get to skate through life and do whatever because they're insulated from the consequences structurally, and other people are really really vulnerable to the consequences because they don't have parents with like health insurance or health insurance that they would be willing to allow them to have birth control on.
Okay, and excluding the fact of birth control. So if you are in a situation where birth control or any form of birth control isn't necessarily readily available, which is a far and long stretch for that to be for the case for everybody.
It's not for everyone.
Why are you then having sex? What?
For the same reason that every other person is having sex, because it's amazing.
But that's what I'm saying. We have to learn to what's the word I'm looking for? To control urges. Because here's the thing. Yes, everyone wants to have sex, but everyone can't afford the consequences should you have a child. So if you can't even afford $1 for a condom, if you can't even if because birth control in and of itself is expensive. I'm not going to say, well, if you can't afford birth control, but if you aren't even readily available to invest in a plan B, where if you're like, oh snap, I had sex with somebody, we should go take a plan B because we didn't use a condom or anything like that. Or because here's the thing. How many times does the condom actually break? Because if you look at the average number of sex partners, like if you like, and I hate to bring up this kind of thing, right? I hate to bring up this kind of statistic. The average person sex partner. Let's just do a quick Google search on it.
Are you talking concurrent, like at the same time?
No, over the course of life.
Oh, okay.
The average number of sexual partners for someone is 7.2.
It's higher than I would have thought, to be honest.
7.2. Now, how many people do you know the average number is anywhere between 4 and 8 partners in someone's life? According to a 2011 to 2015 study, women between the ages of 25 and 44 had a median of 4.2 sexual partners, while men in that age group had a median of 6.1. These median numbers are based on number of lifetime sexual partners among sexually experienced men and women, meaning they don't take into account people who have had 0 sexual partners. So these numbers aren't even based in including people that haven't had sex. These are numbers based on people that did have sex. So the average sexual partner for a lifespan is 8 people. So you are going to tell me, like, now, think, because yesterday we talked about, your people's, everyone having different opportunities. How many, like the opportunity of, the condom broke. So if you've only had sex with 8 different people in your life, what is the chance of you getting somebody pregnant? Versus what we actually see, for example, in Michigan, where people are doing 8 in a week, 8 people in a week. Like, what is the difference? Why? I feel like that number plays a large role in these unwanted pregnancies.
I'm not understanding how.
Because the more you have sex unprotected, the more likely you are to have a baby. Most people aren't getting pregnant on their first rodeo.
But that didn't say that people were having sex unprotected. That was just the number of partners.
The number of partners increases the opportunity of you having sex. So
It
if you
increases the number of times you've had sex,
which
probably.
which
Yeah.
increases the chance of you getting somebody pregnant or someone getting pregnant. The more sex you have, the more likely you are to get pregnant, even when using contraceptives.
Right. But if you just have one partner and you have sex with them every single day, you're going to be just as likely to get pregnant as somebody who has a bunch of partners.
But are you having sex every day? You have to think about that.
But somebody who doesn't have a consistent partner definitely isn't having sex every day.
The amount of people having I hold on. I think there's a statistic. Single people have more sex than people in a relationship.
Sometimes it depends on the single person, and it depends on the people in the relationship.
But you have to think of it like this: how many people do you know that have had more sex with more than 8 people? Because here's the thing: every female has a different ovulation kind of system. So even if you're having sex with the exact same person, they may not have the same abilities. Your two DNAs may not create a baby at the same speed at which someone else. So actually having more sexual partners increases the opportunity of you getting someone or being pregnant. So in what we see in just your on one, how many people do you know that have had sex with
Well,
more than 8 people?
I do think there's one caveat. Like if the if the girl is on effective birth control, then like none of those things matter because she's not going to get pregnant because it's like modern medicine.
So
So like
why?
instead of like all this extra shit, we could just like make sure everyone has access to birth control.
But how are we going to do, like, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, what birth control is for people that obviously don't want to have kids. So if you are one of those people that are not on birth control but don't want to have kids and are actively having sex, one of the two
You can't afford it.
Exactly.
So the
So
government
why are
should
you having
provide it. So then it's no
so
longer an issue.
so you think the government should provide everything
It's
that someone
cheaper.
can't
It's
afford?
literally cheaper than WIC and like children's health insurance and like all the other programs that we give to people once they exist. It's literally cheaper to just provide birth control so that they don't exist.
So you're saying that anything that's cheaper, anything that we can't afford, we should provide for somebody else.
I'm saying
Government.
like let's say that like the vaccine for polio costs $10 versus treating someone for polio costs $1,000. It makes way more sense for the government to pay $10 for every single person to get a polio vaccine.
And where do we draw the line? Because it's almost cheaper to do anything in bulk.
Yeah, which is why the government should do a lot of things that right now we have as an individual because America's a bad place.
Bro, that is the worst concept of thinking I can like, you are basically saying the government should provide, like, basically you're saying because we're born the government should take care of us. That is what I'm hearing. Because
Well,
we're
we
born.
contribute to the human capital of America, and the brand and the workforce and the economy is driven by the people who go to work every day and who live here. So yes, it does make sense that we should receive something for that. It only doesn't make sense in the concept of America where we're told to pay taxes and we don't get anything for it.
Those roads are paved, right? Hold on,
No, they're not. Not in Michigan. Look at
hold
what
on, hold on,
Michigan's
hold
roads
on,
are like.
hold on. Let's
Do
go
not
in.
tell nobody from Michigan that the roads are paved.
We're gonna come in and out. So I'm gonna. What's going on, Ramblers? I don't mean to interrupt today's podcast, but we have a quick mid-roll from our sponsors. So back to what we were saying. So you're basically saying that because we are alive, the government needs to take care of us. That is the dumbest thing I think someone has put on this pod. Like, how can you?
Well, you ignored the other things I mentioned. I mentioned we contribute to the economy, the human capital of the country, the brand, and everything that exists in America is specifically when you're talking about Black people, literally built on the backs of our ancestors. So you can't just say it's ridiculous that we're owed stuff.
I'm not saying that Black people aren't owed reparations. That's different. We did work that we weren't paid for. However, being born and living in a particular place doesn't make that particular country in debt to you.
Well, every other country doesn't agree because in Germany, their citizens get something for the tax money that they pay. In like Norway, Sweden, even in the UK, like as crazy as it is over there, they don't get as mad about paying their taxes because they go to the doctor and they walk out and they're not bankrupted. Like America is the only place where we do not have a social contract with our government where the taxes that we pay and the work we do is rewarded with them doing something for us.
Because it is. What when you pay what? How do you think your kids go to public school? Taxes. How do you think there's Husky and State? Well, I don't know what it's called out there in
Public
Michigan.
schools in poor neighborhoods are dog shit.
And where is the money going?
It's, I mean, like the money that you pay is like directly proportional to property taxes. So because of redlining and the ways in which like poor communities were like squished together and the property values like depressed, now they don't really pull in a lot of like revenue in terms of property taxes for their schools. So the areas that have the big overinflated houses where like the values keep going up because it has great schools and it's a great neighborhood because white people live there and black people don't, like those places have really good schools because they have a lot more money.
Well, I mean, maybe we should stop tearing down our houses. Bro, have you ever been to the hood? It's disgusting.
Right, but is it disgusting because of the individual people that live there or because of the structural slumlord
Be-
city planner people that create like situations in which some areas don't have grocery stores or banks?
what places do you know don't have a grocery store or a bank?
Bruh, like every like the places where black people live a lot of the times are in food deserts, and a lot of black people are unbanked because there are no banks in the places that they live.
I disagree. There are a lot of bro. There are banks literally everywhere, just like there are grocery
Are there
markets.
banks literally? You realize most, like a lot of black people live in like the major cities and in the South. And like, yeah, in the major cities, like they can drive a little further to one, but like, bro, like we were on our way to the dispensary in Detroit and there's literally a row of 6 Chase ATMs off of, I forget the street, but it's like a row of 6 Chase ATMs in an entire lot where a bank could and should be. But instead of there being a bank in this black neighborhood in Detroit, it is just a row of Chase ATMs. Like this is stuff I've seen with my own eyes my entire life, bro. Like the experience of what's available between black and white people and poor and like upper class people in general is like unreal to people who aren't from the reality of the poor.
Bro, I've grown up in New Haven. Now, it sounds like, oh, well, that's where Yale is. It is a very vast different place depending on if you're black or if you're white. It's two complete, like you can go from my particular area, which is the Tray, probably one of the outside of the Ville and the Hill, the third what most shooting. Well, probably because of the largest the area we have the most shootings and everything, but banks everywhere, grocery stops around the corner. I mean, also do live in a city-like area. It's not a city like New York City, but very city-like. It's a large town, if you will. Uh, we do have big buildings, but we don't have skyscrapers or anything like that. And there's a very large poverty gap line. You walk out my house or go onto the porch and look down the street, you're going to see a drug transaction or some things going on. Very sketchy things. So I live this, and I literally see the decisions that like you people do not take care of their stuff. So when we talk about gentrification, and basically it's these people have these terrible places that they're living in, and like, okay, we're gonna make this place a better place for you to live. It just
And
costs a
then they
little bit
can't
more
live there anymore.
because it's going to cost a little bit more, obviously.
It
So what
doesn't cost a little bit more. It costs like 2.5 times more. People get their rent raised from $1,200 to 3,000. That's not improving the neighborhood. That's taking people's homes and then putting different people there.
we have a I don't know if Michigan has it, but we have a rent law where you can't outrageously raise the rent to a certain spot to a certain price, just like in California. I don't know what that amount is, but it certainly isn't able to go from 1,200 to 3,000. And even I can't even say even so, but for the majority of the cases, it's not going 2.5 times. It's going maybe 0.5 times. It's going from 1,200 to, let's just say, 15, 1,600, 1,700. But better
But
thing.
that's impossible for somebody who's barely paying 1,200.
So so why don't you take care of what you have for 1,200 and you wouldn't need?
Because they don't own it, they're renting it.
That doesn't mean not take care of what you have.
You don't have it. You're renting it. It's not yours. Why would you be taking care of it? It's
You
the
do
person
take
who owns it's job to take care of
no.
it.
You pay for the space. When you pay for a space, that is now your space. Just like
No, it's
when
not. You're
yes, it
renting the
is.
space. You
Just
do
because
not
you
own it. You don't have equity. You don't get a
just because
tax
you don't own
write-off.
it doesn't mean it's
Like,
not yours. When you
yeah, it
go into
does. Because it being yours means you own it.
invite people to you, when you invite someone to your house, what do? You say, "Come to my house.
Right,
Come
but
to
it's
my
not your
home."
house,
It
as
is.
evidenced by the fact that if you don't pay for it, somebody with a gun shows up to kick you out of it. So it is not yours.
Bro, if the landlord doesn't pay for it, someone comes up and takes it.
Yeah, so therefore it wouldn't be his anymore.
But what I'm saying is ownership doesn't possession is 9/10 of the law. So if you are in possession of something, it is yours. Just like if you go to jail for having crack, even if it's not literally yours, you're in possession of it. Guess who's going to jail? You.
Right, but that's not how real estate or anything of that nature works, because we're about to be staying in this really nice condo, but guess what? We do not own that shit. If somebody asks if we own that shit, we can't say yes. You know why? Because on July 31st, 2021, we need to be the fuck up out of there.
So for the time being, it is yours. That's what renting is. Temporary ownership. You, for the time being that you are staying in this particular place, temporarily own it. So it is your job to take care of it.
Dude,
That's why it is in the lease. So if you go, for example, if you're renting out a house and it's a single family house and the grass isn't cut, why are you, like, you live there? Why are you expecting someone else to come and cut your grass? You live there.
I mean, nobody's saying that people need to get their grass cut, but I mean, like, if you have to, like,
pick up the trash after yourself.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking about like grass and trash? Like, that's not what depresses property values.
Why are you beating up the inside of the house? Like, bro, literally, unless we're talking about the structure of the house in and of itself, which even
because
then,
that's what dictates property values, the area that it's in and what kind of house it is.
Yeah, in the structure of the house. So, and I've seen, because my dad is a landlord, so I've literally cleaned up after people when they moved out. Bro, people do not take care of their properties. They don't give a fleet. They don't give a
because why would they? It's not theirs. Like,
bro,
why would you?
Because you freaking live there, my guy. Like,
no, you don't, because you just moved out.
Okay, so if you're moving out, why do you have? So basically, what you're saying is, screw everybody else. It doesn't matter. So why should the person who has to then go in after you, clean it up, pay to get things fixed up, pay all this? Because
it's your job and you own the property. That's what the job is. Like.
So when you live there, it is your job to take care of that property.
No, it's the job of the person who owns the property to maintain the property, as evidenced by the fact that it's still theirs after you move out of it, because they have a financial interest in the condition of the property, whereas you do not.
Bro, do you hear yourself? That is so selfish.
No, it's not. That's
bro. You live there. No, you live there.
You're comfortable taking half of people's money that they make so that they have a place to live. So why would they then care about you having to spend a few hours cleaning up?
Because you live here, bro. Like, and now think of it like this: long-term tenants, especially people within the projects, because you're or in these low-income areas, you're not just up and moving in places. You're there for a long amount of time, and so for you being there for the long amount of time, meaning you're supposed to be taking care of this place, and you're more or less destroying it. Why would I fix it up for you to destroy it again? Like, bro, these people don't really care at all. So if they don't care, why am I going to then replace something for you to just break it again?
Because it's your property and it's your job to maintain the condition of the property.
You don't care about it. No.
It's your job to maintain the condition of the property as explained in the lease agreement. The lease agreement says everything's going to be this way. And it should be this way.
Reread your lease agreement. I guarantee you it doesn't say that. Actually, Most people don't even read their lease. Read your lease.
But why would you read a lease that's 38 pages? It's literally 38 pages to discourage people from reading it on purpose. Like, that's just, like, you can't, like, do scummy stuff and then be like, oh, well, how come you aren't able to work through this scummy stuff I did? Like, it
Bro,
doesn't
that's
work
not
that
scummy
way.
stuff. That's
It
literally
is
not
scummy to have a 38-page lease and know that people can't read that and then try to say, oh, you should read your lease. Like, that's scummy.
People can read their lease. Read it.
Bro.
People read it when people love to read their lease when they feel like the landlord's in the wrong. Now all of a sudden they have the time to read 38 pages.
Well, yeah, because they're being taken advantage of by somebody who has the power to kick them out of their house. So why would they not take advantage of any resource that they have? Like,
So why
the
are you not
power
reading
imbalance.
why are you would have known that and would not have moved in with that person if you had read your lease beforehand. Now
Most
you can
people do. Most people do not have that kind of choice and option in terms of renters. You can't just like choose between 6 to 8 places. This process I just went through in LA, like, we got 2 acceptances. We had filled out like 5 or 6 already. Like, you just, when you get a place and you're trying to move, it's usually because you have a bad landlord already that you're trying to get away from. So like, you don't have time to be like, oh, well, let me make sure I read all 38 pages of this lease to find something on page 29 that I'm like, oh, no way.
That's dumb. Then you see how that's lazy. That's literally lazy, and you put yourself in your position. You, in that case, I'll say it. You deserve to be messed over by your landlord.
That's
because
asinine, bro.
you did
That is
not
just
read your
absolutely
lease.
asinine.
Why did you not read your lease? Why
What do you mean? Why didn't you read your lease? Because they made it 38 pages so that I would.
So read, bro. It's 38 pages, bro. Take an hour of your life, 2 hours.
That's not an hour. 38 pages of a lease. If you're not a lawyer or something, to where you like understand the like real estate lingo and stuff like that, like, that is an insane standard. Like, nobody that's rich is reading a 38-page lease to where they can then like catch the landlord if they try to do anything. Like, you're only asking that of poor people so that you can blame them for their circumstances.
I'm not asking that of poor
and
people.
that's why
I'm not asking that of poor people.
That's why it's gross.
It does, because here's the thing. Even middle
only
class,
poor people rent.
No, not true.
I mean, not only poor people rent, but I'm saying only poor people are renting from like bad people where they're in perilous situations.
Also, again, not true. Scummy landlords, one, are everywhere. They happen to middle class, rich, and low class people. It's
but
just
you
that
have
when
other
you have
options if you have access to capital and you can move.
So guess what? If you don't have access to capital to move, maybe you should take the 2 hours, 3. I don't care how long it takes you, bro. I don't care if it takes you a full freaking day.
But you don't have a day if you're a person that's working and you're a working class person. You do not have the time to do that.
Yes, you do. Don't watch the basketball game that night. Don't watch the basketball game that night, and then take the time to read the new lease. Period. Don't like you.
But like, how does reading the lease preclude the landlord from being able to like do things to you?
Like what? Name it, because I go through this. I go through this, bro. I live this. Like,
I know, because like people that are landlords have the landlord perspective, and it's the perspective of like, well, like, I deserve to be able to make my investment, and so like whatever inconveniences or things that I cause you or whatever hoops you have to jump through is just what has to happen, and anything that happens is your fault. Like, of course, the person who wants to make money off of someone and like is like the bloodsucker is like the one that's going to be like, oh, there's no excuses. You have to do everything that I need, and I have to get everything that I want, or else you're just being lazy and you're a bad person. Like, bro, you have to try to open it up to the other perspective in your mind. Like, you can't just be like, anytime anyone does something and they're on the other side of it, if I'm on the red team and they're on the blue team, it's their fault if something happened to them.
Well, if you get kicked out of your apartment not even kicked out of your apartment. If you're moving out of your apartment and you destroyed the house because you don't care where you live and I don't own this, I'm not going to care. What is the point of giving you back your deposit? Why would I give you back your deposit, which is it's stated in the lease? I give you back your deposit if you take care of your if this is in good condition. Why in the heck would I pay? Why would I give you back your deposit? You did not take care of the house. Why would I give you back your deposit?
Contractually, you would have the right to keep the deposit.
No. Okay, no. I'm not even we're not speaking contractually in this.
Well, because it's obviously wrong in terms of whether it's right or wrong, but contractually you do have that right because America's a bad place.
What I'm saying is, how is that wrong? How is it wrong to not give someone their deposit back if they ruin the place that they lived in.
Living in a place, like in terms of like when you live someplace, it becomes less brand new than it was before you moved in. So like I understand that like if people are like punching holes in walls and stuff like that, that's obviously unacceptable. But like
What do you consider unacceptable, bro? Because like if you don't know, these people
I
are punching
said,
holes in the wall. They're breaking the windows. They're messing up the pipes. Like they're
but
putting
what do you
stuff
mean
down.
messing up pipes?
Bro, people put stuff down the drain all the time that they're not supposed to put down the drain. People literally go in and just don't care. Like if like
But
into
what
the
do you mean
point
putting stuff down the drain that they're not supposed to put? Like what?
we literally hair products. Literally
In the shower?
no in the sink or anything in
But
general.
like what kind of hair products shouldn't be able to go down a sink?
The ones that get gunked up. Clearly, bro, there's are a lot of things that are not supposed to go down a sink that go down a sink.
Well, I've lived plenty of places and I've never had to get a guideline list of what could go down the sink and what couldn't. So just to be honest, like if you got a piece of shit sink and people can't like put stuff down it, I don't blame the people. I blame the person who like cheaped out and has the piece of shit sink.
So I'm supposed to pay for a top end sink for you guys to then break it.
Why would they break it if it was a top end sink? Because we just established that it only broke because it was cheap.
That's not the only reason they break.
Well, I mean, a sink that is a top end sink is not going to clog because of hair care products, because that's just common sense.
Hair care products, hair, tissue,
Everybody has hair go down the
uh,
sink.
clunks of hair should not be going down a sink. I don't know.
Everybody has clumps of hair go down the sink.
No, not everybody. Don't I,
If you shower, hair comes out of your head and it goes down the like drain.
not in the clumps of what is going on. Like, bro,
You
like
can't regulate how much hair comes out of people's heads, bro. That's insane. That doesn't make sense.
I'm not regulating how much hair comes out of your head. I'm just saying you don't got to do it in the like we're in the drain. If you have that much hair coming out of your head that it clogs, then there's like clearly that's a buildup of stuff. You're not consistent. You're not taking care of what you have.
Yeah, but you see how you're just having to like just stick to these like really really tight and aggressive statements like to combat
To
it's
combat
not
that you're not taking care of what you have. Like my bottom line in this situation, which is what I would need a thing for, is you pay for rent. You live there. Why don't you take care of where you live?
because you don't own it.
That's the
Like
that's the
the incentive to take care of something is
should be
because
that you
you
live there.
benefit.
Should be that you
No, it's
live there.
because you
That's
benefit from it being taken care of in the
you
long run.
do. You
And if
do.
you do not benefit from it being taken care of in the long run, you do not have a financial incentive to take care of it in the way that somebody who does.
You shouldn't need a financial incentive, you bro. You live there. How about that? How about just the fact that you live there and you don't want to live in a slum? If you don't
Well,
want to
I'm
live in a
telling you
slum,
right
don't
now,
treat it like a
it's
slum.
not your choice whether or not you live in a slum. So it doesn't make sense to say that like if you like treat it like a slum, it's going to be a slum because slums are created by like
People.
public policy and
Slums are
created
created.
by like
Slums are created by people not taking care of where they live.
bro, that's nonsense. Like that's like completely ridiculous nonsense. How can people not taking care of where they live have like liquor stores instead of grocery stores? How can people not taking care of where they live like create a situation in which like
Because slums are the
14% of black
rundown of
people.
houses.
No,
We're
but
not talking.
listen, 14% of black people and 11% of like Latino people are unbanked compared to 4% of white people. Like that is not because of people not taking care of where they live. Like the schools being lower quality and therefore not producing quality education. That's not because of people not taking care of where they live. So like it just can't possibly make sense that people not taking care of where they live is the cause of slums.
Okay, so you're referring to the slum as the entire neighborhood instead of just the actual house.
Well, because a slum is an area, it's not a house.
A slum would be the house being messed up, if you will.
No, that's just like I don't know, like a gentrification of words in a sense. Like that's not a slum is an area, like a not great area.
Okay. in area, but it's not referring to the schools or anything, just the housing.
No, it's referring to the entire neighborhood because there's in every neighborhood, in every community, there's schools, there's grocery stores, there's supposed to be banks,
No,
there's supposed to be
you just said
laundromats,
that.
there's supposed to be all those stuff. So like a neighborhood being bad, like also involves the schools. It also involves like what kind of housing is around. It involves what kind of jobs are around. Like it involves all that stuff.
I gotta go U.S. because these people are comparing slums to like. Because if you people took care of your houses, the property value would be up.
No, it wouldn't.
The property
No, it
value,
wouldn't.
the property
No, it
value
wouldn't.
staying up.
No, it wouldn't. Redlining. No, it wouldn't.
You just said that the value of the property is determined by the infrastructure. So if you're taking care of your house and you keep it up,
No, because the house is already built, so it's already has a set amount that it's worth before you move into it. So nothing you do can possibly affect that number except to make it go down.
So don't make it go down.
Okay, but like it's already shit before you even make it go down. So it makes no difference whether you make it go down or not.
Well, because we're in the perpetual cycle of, hey, listen, the last person fucked it up. The people in this area all fuck up their shit. So I'm not going to fix the property because they're just going to fuck it up anyway.
But that's just because like rich people are like bad people and they decide to like put up really, really bad housing that obviously like isn't going to be maintained and is way overpriced to where people are like stuck in perpetually bad and overpriced housing.
It starts with the house. The house is because the house has to meet codes and everything when it's made. So you have when the house is done,
right, and it's not worth anything, and it's a bad house because they just threw it up there because it's a poor neighborhood.
You're missing the point. The house isn't a bad house. It's in a bad neighborhood. You can have a great house and still in a bad neighborhood. I see it all the time. They have like this one house on the block of like the hood or something. It's like, oh, that just happened to be a nice house. It's obviously not going to be worth as much because it's of the area. However, when someone rents into that house, guess how long it's going to take for that house to look like the rest of the block? Not long.
Okay, so
as a person who buys houses, if I have a particular house in a particular area and the people in this area don't take care of what they have,
that's literally just racism. Like that's what that is. Like that's literally
not
like
racism.
Some white developer being like, "Oh, in this black area, these people don't take care of their houses, so I'm just." It's not
even It's not even about being in the black area. You could go to a trailer park. People in trailer parks don't take
redlining historically. Like the exact sentences and the exact points that you're making are the exact things that they said as reasonings for why black people could only live in the bad black neighborhoods. And why white people who still lived in those neighborhoods needed to sell them so they could move to a white neighborhood. So it's like it's just like the words are parallel, but over time, race has been taken out of it.
Well, because in this particular sense, it's not necessarily about race. It's about you taking care of your stuff.
Renting versus owning is definitely about race.
As someone with money, I would not want to own what I have. Where I'm living, why would I want to own where I'm living?
Why would you want to own it, or why wouldn't you?
It's a large expense that is not needed, especially if you can't afford it. Like renting versus owning is not a bad thing. It actually is smarter to rent in most situations. So the fact of you saying, "Oh, well, there's no financial interest in being a renter," there is. You're saving money in the long run.
Not really. How?
Because the amount of money it takes to go into a particular house, in the particular house that you're even living in, if the value isn't even going to go up and the value is only going down, and any work put into it automatically because of the area and the people not taking care of it makes the value go down, you're not making any money. Most people, when you're making money in equity, even in order to get equity out, you have to take it out as a loan. You have to borrow in order to get the cash, because screw net worth. Net worth is dumb. It literally, all it means is how much money would you have if you sold everything and paid off all of your debts. when it comes to owning a house, when you have equity in a particular house, you can have, let's just say it goes up a couple of $1,000s in terms of equity. However, you still, in order to even get that couple of $1,000s, you have to borrow it and then pay it back. So is it really, because you're talking about renting or loaning and everything, is it even really yours?
I mean, the thing is like black people historically haven't even had the option to borrow the money to buy the house. So like where white families for decades have been able to borrow the money, buy the house, get the equity, buy a bigger house, own it, their kids getting an inheritance. Black people have been renting like because they have not been able to enter into that cycle. And then even after 2008, a lot of the black people that did have houses have lost them. So we're in a situation right now where a lot of black people are
What are
renters,
you doing
and
with
a
the
lot of
other
us are
money?
living in
If
what?
you, with the money that you're saving, what are you doing with it when you're renting?
You're not saving money when you're renting. Rent is so expensive in every urban area that people are spending 40, 50, 60% of their income just on their rent.
Because they're not making enough.
Right, because they're working at bad jobs that you say they don't deserve to be able to make more.
Because they don't. I'm sorry, but they don't. You don't do anything. You work at McDonald's. There is no excuse for you being 35 years old unless your goal is to own a McDonald's and you're like, you know what? I'm going to start at the beginning and work all the way up. Why are you going
But
to work
there's
at?
no reason that they shouldn't be working at McDonald's because it's a place that sells hundreds of millions of dollars, does millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue every year. Like they make like billions of dollars, like millions, billions of dollars in profit. They could easily pay these people enough to where they could afford an apartment. And just because our
But the
law
job
does not
isn't worth it.
require them to, they are allowed to take advantage of these people and take their time and then just steal their wages instead of giving it to them and keep it as profit to where they can't even afford an apartment. So
That's not
like
stealing their wage, bro. You
it literally
should
is
not
called
be a
wage
grown.
theft. It's a formal term, wage theft. Like if like they could afford to pay the job way more and over time just with inflation the job should have been getting cost of living increases and it should have been going up and it hasn't. That is wage theft.
Wage theft is the denial of wages or employee benefits rightfully owed to an employee.
Right. And cost of living, like increases of wage, is like a rightfully owed thing. The only reason we don't have it is because, like, through politics, unions were decimated to where people now have to like negotiate against an entire corporation as an individual person. And the reason unions were created is because individual people, like major corporations, crush individual people and put them into horrifying situations. And that's why the law and the government has to step in and stop them.
For jobs that required hard, tedious labor and had terrible conditions is what the unions are for. Not for people that flip freaking burgers.
No, hard. What were the criteria you just said?
Hard, tedious,
That's
dangerous.
absolutely working in fast food.
That is not
Hard and tedious is
that is
absolutely working in fast food. People who work in fast food work harder than people who work in an office. 100%.
100% BS. No, I have never seen a hardworking fast food person lie. I have seen
That's just because
maybe
you're
one or two,
classes, bro.
one or two, and I've been
It's just
a
because like you
hardworking
have to
McDonald's
view
person.
them as bad people individually to be able to maintain your ideology. It's not
No,
because
I'm
you
not
actually
viewing
have
them.
any reason.
I'm
to
not
believe
viewing
them.
them as bad people. I'm
You
viewing them
are
as
because that's the
bad
only way that you
workers.
can blame
I'm
them
viewing them
for
as
their
bad
situation.
workers, bro. There is no reason that you are 30 years old with a child going to work at McDonald's. Like, what are you doing applying? Like, that really bothers me. Why are you people like, oh, I'm going to apply for this new job? Where are you going to? Dunkin' Donuts. What? That is not a job,
Bro,
really.
but how are you going to get a better job if you don't have an education or if you don't have transportation or if you don't have
Education
stable
is
housing?
free.
Education is not free. Like you cannot just get an education in the spare time from when you're working your job you're already barely making ends meet on, to which you're then just going to automatically end up in some better job. Like that may work out for you in some long-term period, but for the time being, you're going to be working at McDonald's and you deserve to be able to have an apartment and a used car.
I disagree. I'm sorry. You don't. If you work at McDonald's, you don't work enough to do anything.
But you work 40 hours. How do you not work enough?
A child can work 40 hours.
How? But why would we have a child working 40 hours?
because they want to get money and they need to learn what it takes to make money. And so that
no, let's not get distracted, bro. Like why does a grown person who works 40 hours a week not deserve to have an apartment and a used car? Like that is not some extravagant standard of living. That is like to be able to go to the dentist and be able to go to the doctor if they're at work and they get burned, to be able to go to the doctor, bro. Like why do people who work 40 hours a week not deserve to have that?
Because it's at McDonald's. I'm sorry. Like if that's
you're
what you're
not
asking
sorry,
me,
bro. You're saying that these people literally are worth having like a death sentence and unstable housing and an inability to get transportation because they don't work at a place that you think they should deserve to be able to have a reasonable standard of living.
Because you're not doing anything. Like you're hung up on the fact that people are working 40 hours a week, and it's probably
because they're working
you already
full-time.
Don't like work. That's because you already don't like to work.
Because nobody likes to work for crazy low wages that don't allow you a reasonable standard of living. So why would anybody?
Because why are you working there?
Bro, do you realize how many people in this current economy in which like after the financial crisis of 2008, all of like a lot of like the high paying jobs started just disappearing and like they started being replaced by low wage service industry jobs? Like there's people with master's degrees, people with like college degrees of all kinds. Like there's people that have all kinds of experience, have management experience, that are working at fast food places, at restaurants, at grocery stores. And specifically after this pandemic, there's been even more job loss of that kind, to where there are a lot of people that are genuinely talented and could be doing other things that are working at these places because they just don't have any other options at the moment.
So then start a side hustle. Like there are so many bro, if there is a way for even the brokest of broke people to make it from being poor, abused, no house, no internet, no car, to being worth millions of dollars, or even not even millions, to making 75,000, to making 50,000, to making 40, 60,000, to making livable wages from absolutely dirt nothing. What is stopping you?
The fact that there are a finite amount of jobs. Capitalism is a pyramid, right? There's fewer and fewer people, higher you get, right? So that means by the fact of math that everybody cannot have the higher jobs, right? Like, doesn't that just
create a job? We're in 2020. We have the internet.
We just explained the pyramid. So if there are companies, and these companies are going to have because companies employ half the people in the country. So unless those jobs are just going to go unfilled and people aren't going to work there anymore and nobody's going to offer any services or do any kind of business of any kind, some people are going to be working for other people. And at the bottom of the pyramid, there are way more people than there are at the top. So at the bottom of that pyramid, should these people have a standard of living that is reasonable for a person, or should they not? It's just an ideological decision. And you can say no, but when you say no, you're saying that, okay, I only think 30 to 40% of people deserve to be able to live a good life, and everybody else should just be like in squalor and just like trying to do paycheck to paycheck and make it.
Because the word is, I don't believe anyone deserves anything. I believe you get what you earn. I don't believe anyone.
Right. So you're saying anybody who has a bad situation deserves it. That's what that means. You get what you earn means you deserve it.
I guess, yeah.
So you're saying that people that are born in like neighborhoods that like are like have poor schools, in which their parents work so they don't have a lot of individual time and attention to spend with them, in which there's a lot of crime and a lot of things around to where they don't necessarily feel safe being outside where they live, and like you're going to compare that person to somebody who grows up in like an upper middle class suburb where they have.
I'm going to compare them to another person in their situation that didn't make those decisions that they made.
But like, there's like way more.
I'm not going to compare an.
There's way more people that are still in the situation than there are that got out of it. So obviously, it's like very, very rare
a lot
for
of
the
people
people to get out of it to make it.
Those people that make it out have a different mindset. They don't have a defeatist mindset where it's like, oh, the government should take care of me, or it's not my fault that I'm in this situation. Like, it's just whatever. No, they have a mindset of, yo, this is what this is right now. I don't want this to be the future, so I am going to put the work in right now to make sure that my future. I'm not talking about being a millionaire. I'm not even talking about making $100,000. I'm talking about someone that just went from absolutely dirt nothing, and we see it all the time, to, you know what? I now work in a warehouse and I make like $45,000-$50,000 a year, and I am about to get married type of thing. You feel
But do
me?
you realize how the only thing, like, you can't respond to like systemic situations with hypothetical individual like
These aren't hypothetical.
attitude adjustments. No, they are hypothetical. It doesn't matter if they're hypothetical; they're individual. How can an individual fix solve a systemic problem? How
Because
could
what is
like
this? What is the system of the group of individuals? So if the group
okay,
of
but
individuals that
in
make up the
slavery
system,
in slavery in America, was the cause of slavery in America of the enslaved like African people that like were our ancestors, was that because of their mindset or because of the systematic oppression that they were facing?
are you talking about people that came slaves or people that stayed slaves?
What?
I said, are you talking about the people that became slaves that were captured, or the people that stayed slaves because they were in the mindset?
I'm just completely unclear as to what mindset you're talking about.
So people that were taken away into slavery, they were captured. That was 100% forced. They're like, unless you were physically able to deter that kind of situation, you butt out. But to then be at a particular point to say, I'm not going to take this. Because here's the thing. Some people just said, you know what, I will die before I become a slave. And unfortunately, like today, that has to be the mindset. I will die
Okay,
before I
but
become a
wait,
slave.
the people that say I will die before I become a slave did die.
Yes.
And like the
You
people
have to be prepared for that.
right,
This
but here's the thing. The analog to that in our current time is not upper class like black people being involved in business. Like that's not the equivalent to that. Like the equivalent to that in this current time is the people who choose to not conform. And in a sense, I would honestly argue kind of like the like Nipsey Hustle like gang culture is much more appropriate and much more similar to that response than like acquiescing into white supremacist
No
capital.
one's saying is acquiescing into white
But
supremacist
that's
capital.
what you
I am
are. That's what you're
100%.
doing. Like,
No. I'm 100% for what Jay-Z said. Take your drug money and buy
Jay-Z
the
is
block.
acquiescing to white supremacist capitalism. 100%.
I disagree. He's telling you to use your. He's not saying don't sell drugs. He's saying use your drug money differently.
I don't care anything about drugs or anything about that nature. I'm just saying that Jay-Z is like a white supremacist capitalist. Like he's not on our side, is what I'm saying.
Man's is smart. Homie went from nothing to something, and you think you
That doesn't make you smart. That just makes you talented. Like this nigga can rap good, and then once you already have money, it's really easy to make a lot more money.
Smart move. So how come other rappers aren't doing what Jay-Z's doing? Because they don't have the mindset.
No, I mean, I think like Jay-Z was really, really successful in terms of like developing brand and developing himself as like an entertainer and like a personality. And he has then leveraged that into getting himself connected with people that know
And
things and
other
were able to
people
put
can't
him
do it.
on to
So
stuff.
how come other people aren't doing that?
Well, other people didn't have like $50 million to just like
No,
invest in like, whatever they wanted to do.
other rappers. How come other
They don't
rappers
necessarily have that either. Like,
bro, Jay-Z didn't just get $50 million to him. That man has been making smart moves from the jump. And if you look at the interviews of the people that knew Jay-Z from jump before he was even this big thing right now, it was still, homie was on some different mentality since jump. He was like, he was putting people on from jump, and from the jump with using drug money, with using the rap money, with using money from tours and shows and whatever else. It was immediately going into an investment. Like he's like,
right. And he knows
that's
how to
exactly
double up.
with what Nipsey Hussle is saying. So in the gang, I'm not saying that we shouldn't that's what I'm saying. You should be willing to die versus being a slave. And in today's society is the same thing. It's not about acquiescing to white capitalism. It's about whatever you need to do to make it understanding what has to be done. These white people aren't playing fair. So should we play fair?
We're not. It's not playing fair. Like I don't even understand what you mean by play fair.
I didn't say it. I said nobody's playing fair. So why would we play fair? Yeah, so
But what does
if you
playing
have,
fair mean?
it means that you have to go to school to get to make money. You have to do this. No, if you and I don't condone selling drugs, but if you are a drug seller, do something different with your drugs. Like they're like these people have gone from wanting to be, and it sounds crazy, have gone from wanting to be like Scarface to being a local block person. The goal and the idea and the mindset separates a lot of people, where even if you are selling drugs, even if you are a pimp, even if whatever, boosting cars, whatever it is that you're doing, when you receive your capital, when you receive the monies, because, or even a scammer, bro, did you realize that I went through how much a scammer makes based on like a graph outline, and these people make six figures, yet they're not doing six-figure moves with their money. Bro, take a scammer, and Detroit has a lot of scammers, I'm sure. Do they? Yes or no? I can't.
Oh, definitely, of course.
People running scams. I'm from Connecticut. People all the time talking about, oh, I do New York, scams right there. So every time they scam, you look at the check, that's about $5,000. Because the whole check was 10, you had to break people's pieces off and everything. You got about $5,000. So $5,000 on the scam. You're doing that once a week, twice a week. Oh, not a week. Sorry, 1 to 4 times in a month. Either once a week or once a month. Those are the two really things. People are doing it like usually twice a month. Do it 1 week, wait a week.
I don't understand the point of this incredibly specific allegory.
Because we're talking about what people make and what they do with that money. So,
but this isn't what everyone makes. This is just like some hypothetical thing of what somebody maybe somewhere could make.
No, this is not a hypothetical. This is like, if you look at how about this?
Because there's millions of people running schemes, but like, there's no, like, everyone's scheme doesn't work. It's not like everybody's just out here just getting it in just like easily all the time. So I just don't understand really the value of the example.
How much money they're making and what they're doing with what they make. Because if you scam, you're scamming and you're making money. Period. Like you can't not tell me you look at a scammer.
Right, but what's like, but so what?
It's what you're doing with the money. Because here's the thing: why are you then scamming to only go buy a Gucci bag? Go do something that you can actually do, bro. You can go put that money, put the money on Cash App, bro. Go to Walmart or whatever, get a Cash App card. Like, you can, because you're like, oh, I don't have a bank. Because I know you're about to bring up banking. So go to Walmart, get the depositable Cash App card, upload whatever you scammed, put it on Cash App, and start learning to trade. It's just an option of what you can do. That's not the. I'm not saying that's
right, because all you can do is provide these, like, oh, well, maybe you can do this and maybe you can do this.
Because there's so many freaking options that people don't do.
Show these 50 like empty doors with nothing behind it that aren't going to work for 99.9% of the people that try them. But it just allows.
They're not going to work because they don't put the time. They're not going to work because they don't put the time and the.
But do you see how you're already explaining and giving excuses for why it's not going to work? Because you know it's not going to work in the way that you're saying.
Because it is going to work. Because here's the thing: that people always like, oh, well, everyone can't trade stocks. I mean, everyone really can. It's just, are you going to be willing to learn and do that? Because people.
But even if every single person learns, then like it still is not going to be possible for everyone to win in the stock market.
It is, but I mean, bro.
Because for you to make money, people have to lose money.
Because they made a wrong trade. So here's the thing:
means everyone can't do stocks and succeed at it.
Yes, you can, because guess what? Everyone loses money in stocks, even the people that make money. All you have to do is make more money than you lost. That's literally what stocks is.
But some people have to lose more money than they make for you to make more money than you lose.
That is not true. Nope, that is not true at all. People do not have to make less money than they made for someone else to make.
Every single time a trade is executed, it's executed between two people for a dollar amount, which means that one of those people, either the person buying it is like getting it like above or below price, or the person selling it is getting above or below price. So by the definition of how the market works, and that it's a transaction between two people, like if a stock is dropping like a rock, the person that's selling it is losing money and the person that is buying it is probably making money.
No, the person that's buying it is spending money. They're not making money because guess what? If you buy a stock and it continues to drop, you then lost money. So it's actually possible for both people to lose money.
Right, it is. But what I'm saying is, and that maybe that example, like specifically, did not necessarily work in
It
the
doesn't
way that
matter
like
what it
I
doesn't
was
matter
trying
what
to.
example. What I'm saying is
But like, no, by the
that's not the
definition,
case.
like because it's a sale between two people, like there is like there is like a seller and buyer surplus that does exist.
But what? Okay, and the surplus goes into whoever is making. But in stocks, it doesn't necessarily work like that because when you have the transaction between what's going on, it heavily depends on the transaction that is being made. So, say someone is selling something, right? That instead of they could be selling it because they already made their money. So someone else is going to then purchase that and then say it continues to go up. So now the person who sold it made money, and the person who bought it because it continued to go up with made money. So that's what I'm saying. In the stock market, it doesn't go where because it's two transactions, one person made money and one person lost money. It can go
Right.
one
It's not
person,
that zero sum. Like it can be other things,
but
but at the
but
same time, the money that's going into the stock market, like it's like the surplus exists. So like when it like starts to like top out and people start like paying too much, those people are losing money. Like yes, there is like a green zone, like when it's going up and it's going to keep going up and people can make money buying or selling.
so
But
then shorting
eventually,
it
all stocks do
drop. And
do
guess how?
level off and drop,
Yes, and
and
that's why,
every
and that's
single
where
person
shorting
isn't
comes
going to
from.
catch it, and that's where like people lose money because people make money with shorting and things of that nature.
Yes. So if you can make money both ways, what I'm saying is in the stock market, everyone has the opportunity to come out with making more than you lost. Period.
Right,
That's
and
the point.
opportunity is all there is. You're saying it like it's a certainty, and it's not a certainty. No matter how much you learn, it's not a certainty that you're going to make money because it's just not dependent on ability.
It's dependent on ability.
It's dependent on ability to an extent, but like to an extent, it's also just some things just happen that you can't be prepared for. The coronavirus pandemic was not something like some people got rich off coronavirus, like through like
Mhm.
insider trading or through just like kind of getting lucky. And it's not because they did something, it's because some unprecedented thing happened.
Bro, we are getting rich because of Corona.
In a
And
sense.
we're not, and it has nothing to do with stocks. But that's the point. There are so many different opportunities that people don't even try, that people don't go forth to put the effort in. Because here's the thing, bro. If you can sell drugs to a person that has been to jail in front of the cops, you can, I'm 100% sure, get a house rented. I'm sure you can. There are so many different things that people can do, and that's what I was talking about by the internet offering in a free market to everybody, where there is literally the internet doesn't care if you're poor, the internet doesn't care if you're rich, the internet doesn't care if you're black, white, or whatever. The internet doesn't give a freak. It is the purest sense of being able to be in a free market and do what you want and make money from it. There are so many, and because of the internet are so many options, so I can understand that before, um we'll call it 19, before the year 2000, these these thoughts would be true. Yes, there's only but so many limited options on what we can do as a people, to make money and have capital and change our lives and everything. But with the forthcoming of the internet, we literally now have the ability to, like, you don't have, like, you can buy and sell a house without leaving your house. You can learn. When you were talking about education not being free, education is absolutely free. And just like we were talking about the other day, the college system will be disrupted, and the education system in general will be disrupted because of the internet.
Right, but right now it's not. And I think another
It
thing that
is.
you're
It is. The
not
ROI. The
necessarily
ROI of the internet has already disrupted college because the ROI of college has now dropped. Back in the day, college had a huge ROI. Now the ROI is, excuse
what
my
do you mean
French,
college has an
shit.
ROI? Like in terms of like what the degree is worth?
What you pay in terms of tuition is what your degree is
Well, I
worth.
feel like that's probably more to do with the fact that tuition has like gone up like 50x since then. And so like therefore it doesn't justify the insanely high tuition. I don't know if necessarily the internet disrupting it is the cause for that change in the number.
Well, in terms of it disrupt, when I say the internet has disrupt, uh, college education is because a lot of people are now getting these high-paying positions, high-paying jobs, high-paying careers, these businesses without going to college because the information that they need is on the internet that they would get in college. Just like I
Right,
showed you
but
yesterday.
it's only so many. Like that's like because there's only so many people with a degree that are even doing that well. So like when you like then go into the numbers of people who are able to make it without a degree, like it's just like just census data. It's only working out for a very, very, very small percentage of people.
Because it's still new. Yet the ROI of putting money, whatever you would put into college, into the internet to do something, is higher than the actual ROI of college.
Right, because it's $100,000. It's a lot of money. Like it used to not be that much.
Bro, college has always been expensive. People have
Not as
always
expensive as it is right now.
It's
No,
not as expensive
definitely
as it
not.
is right now, but people have always had to break their back and has always been considered an elitist class. College was literally made to keep elite people elite, and the internet has now disrupted that because guess
But
what?
state universities also did that because like state universities were like funded in the same ways that like high schools are, to where like tuition was like 5 to 10% of the median family income versus it's like 150% of the median family income now.
And even back then, people were still struggling to get into state colleges. Because here, let's be 100% real. Everyone, like college cannot be the answer to how people do good in life, which means it's a business. So if college is the business, that means at some point it has to be disrupted, just like everything else. And as of right now, the internet has literally disrupted every single industry and is now in the process of affecting and disrupting the education industry, with YouTube being the second largest search engine, only second to Google, meaning YouTube is a larger search engine than Yahoo, than Bing, than whatever Firefox uses, than whatever Safari uses. It is a bigger search engine than all of them. It's only second to Google.
And YouTube, I mean, Google owns YouTube, so that's pretty terrifying.
Meaning the internet now, between just Google and YouTube, has the largest sense of information out there for free. We're not even going to talk about paid content, literally just for free. And how do we know that the information is out there for free? Because people are going to say, well, how are you going to say that you know the information if you got it online? Well, considering that the same person that teaches this class is teaching the same class on YouTube, because it happens, or even the fact that this particular expert in this field that makes a certain amount of money and they know what they know in this field is then teaching this class, the only thing that we are actually paying for is certification. The only thing you're paying for in school isn't you're not paying for the knowledge in school. You're paying to have a piece of paper that says you know the knowledge. That is why it's a business. Because when you go on the internet, guess what? You are going to go use the internet to pass those classes. I've said this and I'll say it before. You are better off using Google and Google alone and the resources that Google has to pass your classes than using the textbook. So if the internet is so powerful to be the reason people pass college, because let's be real, how many people would pass college without the internet? Not a lot. So if we need the internet to even pass college, why can't we just use just the internet? Which is what I mean when I say this is only the beginning and it's going to take a while, but the internet is disrupting the education experience. And as it disrupts the education experience, it will break down the idealism of being an elitist, because now you can't say that you went to Yale or you went to Brown and that's better than going to Southern, which is our local state college over here, Southern Connecticut State University. Oh, well, you only went to Southern. Well, I went to Yale. Now it doesn't matter, because which then will drop the price of college, because just like anything that's being disrupted, in order to compete and still be around, you have to do something.
Yeah, I actually don't disagree with the concept of needing to get rid of the concept of elite schools needs to not exist anymore. And that's really hard to say,
because like I go to a school that like people brag about and like it's like a big deal and shit. So like it genuinely is like probably one of the weirdest examples of like privilege that I have, to where it's like, okay, if I really believe in my ideology, I need to like be willing to give up this privilege that I have also, and say like there's no difference in the education I got at the Ross School of Business at Michigan than people get in like business classes at community colleges. Like it had the same slide decks.
And going to a community college, I learned that. Like I going to a community, you realize, like, you know what's crazy, bro? Going to a community college will teach you that even in these community college classes, do you know what these professors do in their spare time? Like these Yale, Brown, U Michigan professors, do you know what they do in their spare time? They teach at other
Yeah.
places. Like, it really blows. Like, this person who is a professor at Yale turns around and then goes to teach at Gateway. Like, we have, like, I've had Yale professors, not at Yale obviously, but at Gateway. You know, I go to my community college class, and it's like, yeah, you know, they're talking, and it's like, so, you know, I was teaching a class at, you know, Yale and everything the other day, and my students, it makes it harder. And so a lot of times, that's being the perk I got from being at a community college is all of these, you know, we'll call them high grade professors, or Ivy League school professors, coming in and saying, listen, man, I am teaching you, there is no difference in what I'm teaching you guys than what I'm teaching my other students. Like, I'm not teaching you guys something different because I'm at Gateway. Like, I can't. I literally can't. Like, because you guys have to learn the same things. And so for me as a teacher, I got to do the same stuff. So, and it hit me like, wow, bro. Like, so you're telling me the person at Yale is going to come brag to me about taking a particular class because they went to Yale and we had the same teacher just at a different place? We didn't learn anything different. You just paid more.
Yeah. Me personally, like the thing about colleges that is valuable in terms of like the 4-year university is like the social experience.
No.
So like from that perspective, I really like, because like for me personally, I came into college like really, really kind of closed minded and not that like I didn't really have like a substantive view of the world. And I hadn't met a lot of people from different like kinds of like places and with different kinds of mindsets and of different kinds that much. So for me personally, what I got out of my experience at Michigan more than anything was just like a different way to view the world and a different sense of priorities as far as like what's important. So I think that was incredibly valuable. But like in terms of just like classroom instruction, I got almost nothing out of like my college experience.
I'm sorry, but because I went to community college, I had the privilege, because I know you like that word, I had the privilege to travel. It is not worth it to pay 50,000 to go to network, if you will. If that's the case, how much is community college there in Michigan?
I honestly am not sure.
Tuition here is like $5,000 a year for a community college, $2,500 a semester. Which sounds
I'm really not sure.
But what I'm saying is, even if you paid, say, $10,000 for tuition, which compared to other colleges is extremely low, $10,000 for tuition, and then let's just, or your online learning classes, and then say $10,000 for room and board, but your room and board is the world, traveling. What if you went and took online classes and traveled? How much, like, with the amount of money you spent at one semester, not a year, one semester at Michigan, would you say it would have been valuable to have backpacked for that semester and met people from other countries in those countries and learned about the culture and everything from being there and learning and still having your college courses and everything? But whenever you're talking to people, you're going to a different you're going to the actual culture of that particular place, which then gives you the social experience and the etiquette of a different culture and everything that you're talking about. So not only are you getting the social experience, you're getting the culture of a different people in that culture.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I definitely wouldn't have like a problem with that. And like what I meant just like with the social things wasn't even like the people there. It's just like in terms of just like being around that kind of environment, it gave me access to learn about things that just didn't exist in the place that I was from, and to learn about like new ways to think and see the world. And like you can learn a lot of those things by like traveling to other places and like going to other countries, because I think leaving America was like probably the most formative thing that like happened in my life in terms of changing how I view things. So I would agree that like for pretty much anybody, I think like seeing that other countries are also like nice and in a lot of ways better than America
Oh yeah.
really, really does a lot to like help inform you as a person.
I will agree on that. America, in terms of being a crappy place, we have a terrible people. I hate the people. Like going to a different country really shows you that, oh snap, people everywhere aren't stuck up and mean.
Yeah. America's just kind of just like, it's the worst. Like,
I mean, like, I wouldn't want to live anywhere. I couldn't live. Actually, no, I'm lying. Because I'm going to be moving out of the country. So I'm lying. I'm lying. I don't know if I could settle down in another country. I think is what I'm trying to say. I don't think I could like I can backpack because I'm gonna be going on like a backpack thing and everything. Like, but I definitely believe I have to live in America. But that might change while I'm out. So
I'm really not sure. I was like contemplating maybe Costa Rica or something like that. But I don't know. It just gets complicated. Just like trying to like find a place with like the correct marijuana laws, and then a place where you can just go, bro. Because I ain't trying to like had no like weird like overseas punishment, bro. Like,
yeah, facts. I definitely can't have an overseas punishment for no weed.
right, bro. I ain't trying to like be like strapped to a post and like whipped for having weed, bro. So I don't know why. It just seems like that's something that would happen to you if you were in another country and you got caught with weed.
That's really how I don't want to say that's really how I feel, but like when I take into account where I moved to, like one of the reasons why I chose Atlanta is like, okay, weed's illegal in Atlanta technically, but like there's so much weed smoking going on out there. Like,
do they at least have medical?
I don't like that's the important part. Like I can't stand states that don't even have medical marijuana.
Right, bro. That's just outrageous.
Like that really bothers me and scares me because like that just means you're going to arrest me for the smell.
Bro, like the fact that President Obama could have like made marijuana not a Schedule One drug at any time, he just chose to not. Is so wild.
I mean, he tried. It's not like he just can snap.
No, he literally by executive authority could have just made it not a Schedule One drug at any time.
Oh, I mean,
yeah, that's the type of shit. Like that's why Obama gets so much love, bro. Niggas don't know this kind of shit.
bro. I mean, that's why I don't deal with politics in general. I mean, it's against my religion, but I just don't deal with politics in general.
You said that a couple times. I don't really explain that to me. Hello?
Hello, I'm reading something about Atlanta marijuana laws. Mm. Yeah, it's weird because I hate those kind of states where it's like one city does something different than the rest of the thing. Like in Pennsylvania, weed is illegal and not decriminalized, but if you go to Philadelphia, it's decriminalized,
Right.
which is bothersome for me.
How far is that?
Philly is only like 4 hours from me.
Oh, okay, that's not too bad.
Like Connecticut's pretty small, and I can get anywhere I need to in a couple of hours. Out of state, I mean, not like in state. Especially since I lived in like the middle.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I did just check into what I had said earlier, and yeah, like the like federal government has the ability to reschedule drugs at any point that they want. So literally, like he was asked multiple times in 2016 in his last year if he wanted to take it off of Schedule One, and he did not.
Listen, man, I don't know much about politics.
Oh, but explain to me about your the intersection between religion and politics, if you don't mind.
So I'm a Jehovah's Witness. I feel like that should clear up a lot of things.
I did not know that. That is interesting.
Yes, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. Um, which also I'm sure brings up a couple of questions, but yes, so we don't get involved with politics. I believe that no one is going to do anything. It doesn't like that's why I'm so big on people doing individuals, and the government will never do it because the Bible says that man will dominate man to his own injury, which is why we don't get involved in politics because what are they really going to do? Nothing. Only Jesus can do anything, and it's sounds if you don't believe in God or anything like that, it does sound extremely far fetched and everything. But I mean, where do we come from? Where are we made? Where I don't believe in evolution. I mean, if there was evolution, where are the monkeys that didn't make it all the way through? I mean, there's always defects and everything. So if we can find skeletons of Homo sapiens from all this other stuff, where are the skeletons? If we can get skeletons of dinosaurs, where are the skeletons of the people that were evolving from monkeys to humans that got caught stuck in between? Because when you look at that chart, there's a lot of stages between monkeys and humans.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you look at the tadpole chart, like from the frog tadpole to the human, there's a whole list of different type of things. Where is the scientific proof and evidence that they existed? Because we have all of these scientific evidences of like the Homo sapiens with like the weird skulls and different limbs and being too short and being deformed. Where are the people that didn't make it out of the evolution state? Everyone just all of a sudden was a human.
Okay.
Like there was no defective people. So I believe in the Bible and God and Jesus, and that being the answer. Nothing humans do is going to solve anything because humans will dominate man to his own injury. And I believe in what the Bible says. So I use that as really my basis of stuff. And so when I say bootstrap an individual, obviously I know that everyone's not going to be able to do it because I know that we'll always have the poor. Jesus said it. You will always have the poor. So it's not like that's not going to be happening. But I do know for a 100% fact that it's definitely not going to come from the government. Period. Ever. It won't. So that's where I don't get involved in politics. I don't vote. I don't believe in like whether it's Obama, Trump. It doesn't matter. I'm not. Like I didn't vote for Obama. Well, I mean, I couldn't because, but I wouldn't. I mean, I don't even as much as you'll see me talk about the whole Kanye for president kind of situation. I'm not. It's only really kind of jokes type of thing. I don't get involved in politics at all, which is why I'm a business kind of person. Because there's no. It's well, also because I'm a new thinker. We live in the age of the internet. A lot of things that I feel like are taught from people that are trying to maintain traditions. And when people are trying to maintain traditions, that thought process it gets construed. Which is why when like earlier when we were talking about children, people are having kids way too early and can't afford it because you are having kids at 16. And so by the time the child is of age, 4 years old, to start learning and mimicking your habits and go to school and having social skills and all of this stuff, it is learning right and wrong from a 20-year-old. So this child is growing up with the mindset of right and wrong from a 20-year-old. You're what? You said you were 24, 25?
Mm-hmm.
24, right? So if you think back to how you thought about life at the age of 20, if you think about the decisions that you made, you now have to teach somebody and educate them on those decisions that you made because somebody's watching those decisions very closely. So when you decide to say, you know what, I'm going to do this, you're now going to have a little version of you saying, well, why are you doing this? I want to understand what your thought process is. And when you explain your thought process, it's the thought process of someone who's 20 years old, who has only been through 20 years of living, and when you're 16 when you had a kid, because we're talking about a 4-year-old, your mental development process stops because now you have to be looked at as an adult because this young person looks at you like a mature adult. So what you say is gospel. So in your own personal mind, you think you have to have it all figured out because by the time you go to teach your child, let someone say, oh, well, you're doing this wrong. You're like, oh, you don't have a kid. You don't have a kid. You don't have a kid. Well, you shouldn't have a kid. How about that? It's not about you having a kid and knowing how to raise a child. It's about you knowing how to take care of yourself and go through life. So if you yourself can't go through life and have a child, how are you then going to raise a child to then be able to go through life? No, this child is going to grow up with the ideologies of a 16-year-old child, of another 16-year-old. Even when they're 25 years old, they have ingrained in their mind what their parents have taught them. And it's been going on for however long, and it's the process. So now that this person is 16, they have the mindset of a 16-year-old when they then had a kid, which in perpetuity creates a process. So when we talk about the government stepping in and all of these other things, we know that the government isn't going to happen. So nothing we deserve. That's why I believe everything we do is earned, because the Bible says if we deserve anything, we're deserving of death. If we really got what we deserved, and people always wanted what they deserved, and this was taught from my dad, if people always got what they deserved, we would deserve to die, because a lot of things are deserving of death. Not sin in general, but it's obviously not like we're dying. We're going to die at some point, but the only reason we're going to die at some point is sin. And sin includes things like being sickness and having unhealthy. It's just not being perfect. We are not in the state that we were supposed to be in. So with not being perfect means a lot of different things. So the reason I don't get into politics is because I do believe in the Bible, and the Bible says certain things. I'm not going to necessarily get into everything about it, but that then shapes my idea on people, because it is the Bible and everything, So the government not going to do anything, and man dominating man to his own injury, and understanding that there always is going to be a poor people, but you also have to understand that in that I'm thinking like, okay, well, there's always also going to be people that aren't necessarily trying and making the effort and everything, which also can mean there's always going to be poor people, but that doesn't mean that everyone that's poor is not making the effort and trying or anything. So when we talk about working hard, we have to talk about working hard and working smart. So I just don't get involved in politics because I know they're not going to do anything. And I don't believe that there's any way that they can do anything. They could try the best that they could. You just can't. So even if they actually were good, even if the government did do what they could do to help the people, it still wouldn't solve the problem, because we were always going to have the poor. So if the Bible is going to say that we're always going to have the poor, even government interference isn't going to help. So if government interference isn't going to help, and we're currently in the state of the government not even caring about helping, the only opportunity and option you have is to bootstrap, if you will. And bootstrap, I hate saying that word because in people love comparing. So when we get into then comparison, people are comparing themselves to people that have made millions, or the white people that are like, they've been making money for a long time. That is 100% fine. Stop focusing on what white people are making in their net worth. Focus on your net worth. Stop focusing on what other people have, and focus on starting something for your kid. Even if you only come out with $25,000. If you started with absolutely nothing and then built your worth to being $25,000 because that's all you make in a year, guess what? You have now set your kids up way more than what you would have had that not happened. And it's really more or less about not being selfish, because should something bad happen to me or whatever, and it's somehow not my fault, even though I would never think that, that I am not successful. I can't pass off to my kids the amount of capital that I would want. Guess what? I'm able to then pass off the knowledge. I'm able to pass off what I know. And so people always feel like they have to make their kids learn it on their own, which is not necessarily the case. If you stop being selfish and stop focusing on how much money is not going to be made in your lifetime, and focused on the fact of, okay, I'm going to take care of this nice house and property, because if you think about it, a lot of Section 8 is also passed down. Just like wealth is passed down, Section 8 is also passed down and can be passed down for free. A lot of people I know have Section 8 at a young age because their parents had it. And
yeah, but that's not even in the same realm of reality. It's not even in the same realm of reality as an inheritance.
I'm not putting it in the same realm of reality as an inheritance. I'm talking about the idea of people staying in the same spot.
Yeah, but it's not that, because
it's not
inheritance is ownership. It's not about ownership.
I'm not talking about inheritance.
Occupancy is not the same as ownership.
And it is 9/10 of the law.
No, it's not, because you don't own it.
9/10 of the law is possession. Period.
No, 9/10 of the law is having the deed that says you own it.
Possession.
Like, bro, if you are renting an apartment and you try to sue because you're living there and say that you own it, they're going to laugh at you. So like that's a silly thing to say.
Actually, depending on how the lease is, if someone sues to own it, they can sue the renter or they can sue the owner of the house, depending on how the lease is situated. So, for example, most of the time,
but in 99.999% of cases, the person renting a space cannot sue the person who owns it to say that they then own it. Would you concede that?
no, they can't. That doesn't happen. That's what I'm saying. I agree. With the person who rents cannot sue the person who owns because they don't like the person who owns the house is saying, well, now I own the house.
Right. So then occupancy then is not ownership.
Temporary ownership, yes. We're not getting into that. You're missing the point. The point isn't
not ownership because we just established that it's not ownership.
Oh my gosh.
Like things either are or they're not. If you don't own it, then you don't own it.
I disagree. Things are not, or either they are or they're not. You don't want me to get into things there's always gray area. And whenever someone says it's either black or it's white, it means it's either yes or it's no, I will bring up a situation which either it's yes or it's no.
Right, but individual situations don't change the fact that something either is or isn't in a situation. Like if 100 million cases are this, and then there are 7 that are a different way, bringing up the 7 that are a different way does not disprove the rule of the 10 million.
It doesn't. My whole point wasn't even ownership because I wasn't talking about inheritance. The point of what I was saying on how Section 8 is passed down has to do with the fact of just knowing that people are going to be in the same spot. That's all that was the basis of. Oh, people usually are in the same spot because we were talking about not being selfish and passing down what you can. So if you understand that these people are in the same particular spot, so you are understanding that, okay, this person may not have the wealth to pass down. So you can accumulate a certain amount of wealth. Say like we talking about the person who went from nothing to $25,000. You don't own a house. You don't own anything. You're able to pass down no debt because debt is also passed down within poor communities, which is also a thing. So debt not being passed down, and then understanding you can pass down knowledge. Because here's the thing, people are doing all of these things to understand and feel like they're not going to be successful. But if you went from doing 0 to 25,000, guess what? You are successful and you have the opportunity to break the cycle because you are going to be so focused on the fact that you only have $25,000 to give. If even we're not going to say 25,000, but your net worth being 25,000 and you only have the experiences, guess what? Experiences are key. Teaching your kids is just as equally as important as passing down money. And I know you're going to be like, well, passing down knowledge is not the same as passing down actual money. You can afford to be dumb.
People have been passing down knowledge for generations already. No, because that's all we had.
No, we don't have knowledge. Knowledge of what? Real knowledge
of how to survive and how to that's precariously balance bills and how to do things. That is the issue.
You are teaching your kids how to survive poverty.
Because those are the skills that you need. Because if you don't survive poverty, you'll literally be homeless and die.
But here's the thing: pass down thriving.
But we have not been allowed to thrive. So how would we pass that down?
The person who went from 0 to 25,000 thrived.
Yeah, and there literally are numbers of the 5% that happens to. So those people do pass it down, but most people don't live that.
Because most people don't have that to pass down.
Right, that's what I mean. Most people are not able to create a situation in which they have that to pass down.
Most people are able to create a situation, but don't.
Yeah, but that's just you saying that because that feels better than saying that they're in a tough spot and it would be really hard, and so it's understandable that they aren't able to make it. Because then you have to feel bad for people versus if you say, oh, well, they had an opportunity, but they just didn't do it. Then you don't have to feel bad and it's their fault.
Hey Ramblers, before you go, make sure you're following us on social media at Assistance HQ across the board for all content and exclusives. And for an even more personal touch, subscribe to our weekly newsletter with the link in the description.